Welcome to Economics Happy Hour. My name's Matt,
And my name is Jadrian.
and we are excited to be with you in early February. This might be a record for us recording 2 days before it's dropping.
I think
Uh,
some of our presidential debate ones might be the only exceptions.
that is true, but this is about as live and to the point, and hopefully our things aren't out of date by the time we talk about them. But
Could be. We don't
how
know.
how is February going for you? You're snowed in today, right?
Yes, we are in the middle of a big winter storm warning. So it started at 4 o'clock this morning. It's supposed to go till 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to give Virginia Tech a lot of credit. They let us know last night that we were not having class today. So they canceled. It's one. I think this is true for any parent. Canceling early is the best thing. It helps me plan much better. The worst are waking up in the morning a couple hours before I'm supposed to leave, and I get the notice that it's canceled. So they canceled it last night. So I've been incredibly productive today.
Great. Yeah, that's super. It's weird. We did not get any precipitation
Oh.
earlier today, but it is hitting. Uh, we are planning to go visit our son in Philadelphia
Mhm.
this evening. They're getting snow, so we're moving it to tomorrow. We still might deal with snow, but tomorrow's just a little bit easier to deal with. But other than that, semester still progressing along well. Urban economics class, I see your students all over LinkedIn.
Yeah, so you get to so one of my learning objectives this semester was I want them to get better at communicating what they're doing. So I had read a really interesting, I guess, blog post, press release, something like that, about how students on the job market struggle to articulate the things that they're doing in class, and that is sort of single-handedly like the best. If they could just be able to talk about
Mhm.
projects they're doing, experiential learning, what they're
Yeah.
learning, that they're in a better position. So I made that part of my charge that a large portion of their class of their grade will be reflecting on LinkedIn throughout the semester, sharing the projects that they're doing, speakers that are coming to campus. We have a field trip. And so their first sort of practice assignment was you're 3 weeks into the semester. What have you learned? What surprised you? What hasn't surprised you? I think a lot of them are taking it seriously. I think I gave a good pitch in the beginning of why that's important because I got them all to sort of admit, out of a class of 25, I said, how many of you like posting on LinkedIn? And I think one person raised their hand. And then I think two or three were like, I don't hate it. And the rest were like,
Yeah.
I absolutely hate doing it.
Yeah, it's an acquired
Yeah.
taste, I think.
Well, and I told him, I go, look, if you're doing things you don't like to do, that's how you learn to do new things. So
Yeah.
my hope is that I can get them not to love LinkedIn, but at least not to hate LinkedIn. And I think some of them are buying in. I can tell that
Yeah.
they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, I think there's incredible value, whether it's on LinkedIn or otherwise, of being able to articulate
Mhm.
what you've learned. A common interview question for college students or new college graduates is tell me about something unique and different, or tell me
Yeah,
about an interesting class,
yeah.
and having something in mind and being able to, yeah, we not just, oh, I really loved this class, but I loved it, and these are some of the things that we learned about. It can be incredibly valuable. So,
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I got, my upper level class tends to be really good. I try to make it really project based. And I try to really sort of focus it on like we're learning skills together and that these will pay off later. It's going to be very painful now, but it'll pay off later. Just trust me. And you generally, I think, for most juniors and seniors, they go through a lot of courses that are problem sets, exams, and I think a lot of them sort of get jaded kind of in the middle where they're like, what are we
sure.
doing? Why are we doing this? And I think for a lot of them, this is like a cool moment where they go, wait, this class is different. And I always say I hated those other classes. And so they tend to take it really seriously. And I think it
Yeah,
pays off.
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
What is your beverage of choice this evening?
Okay. So we are snowed in. It is, listen, to be fair, I really shouldn't call it snowed in based on where I've lived before. It's thick snow. It's this weird slushy snow. So the roads are relatively clear.
School was canceled though.
School was
You're snowed in.
canceled. Yeah. So, I'm going winter themed here. Pulled one out of the back of the fridge. No idea how old this is, which I think is the general theme of all these beers, which tells me that they're probably more than a year old. I have from the Hardywood Brewery, which I really enjoy, the Christmas pancakes. You don't like dark
Okay.
beer, right? Or you do like,
No,
no,
no.
okay. You're gonna hate this. So from the Hardywood Brewery, I have Christmas pancakes, an imperial milk stout with spices, honey, and maple syrup coming in at a whopping
Wow.
9.2%.
Okay.
So I may not be having the entire can because it is also a
Well,
tall can.
16-ounce can
It's a
too.
16
Yeah.
ounce can.
That's
So
like two and a third Yinglings in one. So
I'm going
I
to be
don't
careful with
know.
this, but I'm excited.
I don't know that I could be further away on a drink. The only thing in common is that it's dark. But I am in my office, and before he came on,
With an
Jadrian said,
asterisk.
"Wait a
Good.
second, no." Uh, for this semester, while I'm on sabbatical, I did not want to be in Apfelbaum Hall, and I also thought uh, our interim dean, Emma Fleck, should be in the dean's office. It's important
Yep.
for whoever is the dean to be in that office. I wanted someplace on campus quiet, not in the normal building, and they were able to get me a small little space. And so I've got things, got my one Broadway poster up on the wall and things set up. So because I'm in the office, I'm not drinking a beer, but I'm having everybody's favorite caffeine-free diet Sam's Cola.
I, I've got to tell you a story about this. Um, I do not dislike caffeine-free Coke. I do not dislike Diet Coke. Perhaps one of the worst beverages I've ever had in my life. Like I still have this memory of the first time I had a caffeine-free Diet Coke, and I will
Yeah.
say by accident because I did not know what I was grabbing. That was back when the cans all looked the same. I literally spit it out. I was like, this is disgusting. I'm sure that I could probably come around to it now, but I just remember being younger and just absolutely hating that soda.
When I was younger, I did not like it either. Now I drink my caffeine soda in the morning, and if I'm not having a beer, I'll usually, which is a fair amount of the time in the evening, I'll have a caffeine-free soda or two in the evening, caffeine-free diet soda in the evening. So do I like caffeine-free diet Sam's as much as caffeine-free diet Coke? No,
Okay.
but the my utility divided by the price um, is higher because the caffeine-free Diet Sam's is way cheaper than caffeine-free Diet Coke these days. So that's it. So that said, cheers. It's
We
probably
do
the
have a,
first.
I'll say we do have similar colored beverages.
Yeah, it's the first time you've probably ever cheered somebody drinking a caffeine-free Diet Sam's. So that's it.
Um, it is okay. So the beer listeners on this episode, it is definitely an imperial stout. The imperial part of
Comes
the
through.
imperial stout is strong. It's not bad. It's a little sweet. It's not very carbonated. Again, this could be my problem. So, Hardywood, I'm sorry. It's good so far, but it's also been in my fridge for a long time. So there's a very good chance that I messed up this beer. Flavor wise, it's really good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very good. And the caffeine-free diet Sam's Cola, delicious. It's
Exactly
very,
what you're
very
expecting.
good. They need an untapped for all of the diet Sam's sodas. So the
Matt, I have a question for you.
yeah,
I'll kick it off for you. I want you to be honest with everybody listening. When was the last time you used a penny to pay for something? Like counted out change and like made sure that you had exact change?
I know this because I was through the drive-through at CVS maybe a month ago. I think it was January, it might have been December. It wasn't that long ago. And I have my credit card ready to pay for a prescription for somebody in the
Okay.
family. And so they say 83 and I'm a little shocked. I'm like, that's 83 bucks. I mean, every now and then something's a little bit more expensive. And then he continued 83 cents. I'm like, I think I got that. I don't need to give you the credit card.
Okay.
And I actually have a little baggie of change in
Yep.
the car. And so I
Guilt. I'm guilty. I had the same thing.
pulled out, I don't know if it was two quarters and three dimes and then the three pennies to give the exact change. So that is the last time that I used pennies. How about you?
I know the last time I've used cash, but I use cash in a vending machine. So, and we have a canned vending machine, so it's exactly $1, and I have $1. I have used coins to pay for parking, but not a penny. I like I really thought about this before we started this episode. I could comfortably say at least it could be literal years. I think pre-pandemic. So we had a coin shortage before the pandemic. I will tell you how when I do use pennies to pay for things, I can tell you how I do it. But in terms of like actually sort of counting out pennies, at
Yeah,
least 5 years.
at least
At
5 years.
least
That's
five. And I'll say
impressive.
purposely counting out pennies. I
Ah,
don't think I do. I don't. I know where pennies are located in this house. Like if I needed to go get a penny, I could. I'm trying to look and see if I have in my coin slot over here. I
yeah.
think I could get you a penny. I don't know the last time I gave that penny as a form of tender at a cash register.
Yeah, I mean, I don't bring it with me, so it's tough for me to have pennies in general. The reason, of course, we are talking about this, and we figured we can do a timely one this time because it's not 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, is a proposal by President Trump to eliminate the penny. And I think basically a directive, and I have no idea, can the president just say it and this happens on the penny? But
From what I've heard is no, but I don't know, right? Like
yeah,
it's in that weird sort of he can put a pause on it, but technically I think it's a congressional thing.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it's been a debate that's been around
Mhm.
beforehand on getting rid of the pennies, and thought that it might be interesting for us to talk a little bit about the economics of the penny. So when you think about the economics of the penny, I guess what are the first things that come to your mind? And maybe I'll start by thinking, do you think there should be no penny in the US? And we could say the same like euro cents, right? Should there be a
Yeah.
euro cent that's worth about the same? So
Yeah. So I'll tell you the first because I've been thinking about this because I want to write a newsletter about it. And so the fact that you asked about this, I was like, oh, this is good. It's been on my mind. The first thought that came to mind, and I will say this is the first thought that came to mind every time somebody mentions it, is so exactly what Matt said. The cost to make the penny outweighs the face value of the penny. Matt, do you have the actual numbers on you? I can look it
according
up.
to Fortune, it says every penny costs 3.7 cents to produce.
Let's round up just to make our conversation easier. So
Yeah.
4 cents to make a penny, 1 cent in value. And this is where I think the first time I heard these sorts of conversations, my immediate reaction was, wait a second, it's that penny's not worth just a penny. There's the velocity of money, and pennies circulate through the economy multiple times. To be fair, I don't know that it circulates enough to generate the cost of it. However, a penny is not just a penny. It does get used multiple times, and coins last way longer than notes do. I think
Yeah.
the lifespan for a dollar bill is just a couple years, maybe 6, 7 years. But a penny can last, and I think this is part of the problem. A penny can last decades because
Sure.
they are probably in somebody's change drawer, and the velocity of money is probably very, very small.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the pennies can certainly last a long time. The the penny costs 3.7 cents to produce, so they are expensive. This article notes that nickels actually cost a little bit more. They're 13 cents to produce a nickel. Um, percentage wise, it's not quite as bad as what we see in the penny. And I also would imagine nickels have a higher velocity. They get spent more often because it's a little bit bigger and less convenient.
You could put it, I mean, you could put those in a vending machine. You can't
Yeah,
put a penny in a vending machine.
you can't put a penny in a vending
You
machine.
can
Pennies.
you can smash a penny and make a commemorative penny.
The the question I've been, I don't know, on the bandwagon for eliminating the penny for probably a decade. I probably thought it might be worth eliminating. And the thing that I come to is how inefficient, what an inefficient use of time for people to count out pennies. And I think about this.
Hmm.
If your hourly rate, and I'm going to simplify, and this is a good hourly rate I'm going to mention, it's above the national average, but if your hourly rate is $36 an hour, you earn 1 penny every second you're at work.
Hmm.
And in theory, your leisure time is worth more than your work time, right? Otherwise, you'd work more. So if it takes you more than a second to dig out that penny, it would have been better, you would have been better off not digging out that particular penny. And often, I mean, how long did it take me to dig out the 3 cents at that CVS? Probably took me 5, 6, 7 seconds, not too long. But if they had
Multiply that across everybody.
what?
Multiply that across everybody.
And every transaction that uses pennies,
Hmm.
and I think we would, you know, the time savings would be worth. I mean, how much? I haven't gone through to calculate this, how much it would be worth, but it'd be worth a lot. And I mean, even if you make $18 an hour, which is, there are states that that's the minimum wage or it's around the minimum wage, $18 an hour every 2 seconds, you earn a penny. So how much time if something is 1802 and you're like, oh, hold on, I think I have a penny here.
Let me find it.
And you take 10 cents, you just spent 5 cents worth of effort to not have that extra change. I mean, it's just not worth it. And I think we'd be better off going where, instead of places that are rounding to the nearest penny, they're now rounding to the nearest nickel.
I Matt, I'm very impressed. You are like okay. So I said I'm gonna write a newsletter about this on Monday. So I've got a completely different take for my Monday newsletter.
Cool.
But I have been seeing right people. Chris Clark has talked about the penny on his TikTok. I've seen other people talking about the penny. You are officially the first person I have seen to present this in an opportunity cost concept, and I absolutely love it. I actually dislike the argument of it costs more to make it than the face value. I don't. That's why I started with that. I don't like that argument. Um, yes, it's true, but there's lots of things that cost more than the
Sure,
face value. Like
sure.
we use it over and over. You actually might have just convinced me based purely off an opportunity cost. I can't come up with a good answer, but I will say I'll pause right at the end of that because I do want to
Yeah.
correct something you said. The values wouldn't be the face values aren't rounded to a nickel. What happens is the change you get is rounded to a nickel. So in Canada, you still if the total is 16.23 and you
Yeah.
give them 16.25, you don't get 2 cents back. You just don't get
Yeah.
anything back.
Yeah.
So like you still get to keep the penny as a price. That way, if you're swiping a credit card, you still pay the exact penny.
Okay.
But
So
it's
if
just
it's
it's the change you don't get back.
and if it's 1622, is 1620 enough?
No, so you basically have to. It's always based on the change that you get back. So
Okay.
if you're supposed to get back 1 or 2 cents, you don't get back any cents. If
Okay.
you get back 3 or 4 cents, they give you a nickel.
Hmm.
And so sort of on average, it washes out.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And there is no way I came up with the opportunity cost argument on my own. I don't know who I learned this from,
Right.
but somebody wrote this down somewhere
Well,
many,
listen,
many years ago, and I was convinced about it.
to
So,
me, you're the first person. You're the first one I've heard who said this, and that is a convincing enough argument for me that I think I might be on pro eliminate the penny. I will tell you, logging into this talk, I was not. I was ready to defend the penny.
I'm curious though, what is the defense of the penny then? Like, what's the best defense?
Sure. So and this could be a time thing. So this might be. I'll put it in the opportunity cost argument side of things because like when they announced this, yeah, I've been to Canada enough times, so I'm used to the sometimes you get your change back, sometimes you don't. But I've also worked in service restaurants and I have seen the anger that people have when they don't get back exactly what they expect to get back. And the amount of time that people will fight to get 2 cents back. So, right, if they're supposed to get 2 cents back and they don't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it, there are enough people that will absolutely just. I don't think I don't think I shouldn't say the average American. A large number of Americans are not ready for not getting your change back when you pay for something. And I will say I'm nostalgic. I used to collect the coins in the little book. Did you ever have one of those? The little 50 quarter books and 50
I don't
coins.
know if I had the books, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I used to collect the coins. There is the commemorative. I have some buried somewhere in the house. There's the commemorative pennies that have been stamped at Disney World as a child.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a nostalgia feeling to it that I think I would miss. But I don't necessarily love it that much. So I will say I'm easily swayed.
Yeah.
I look at it as I don't think I'm going to take this back to something I've said before. Yeah, we're spending too much money on the penny. This literally feels like the smallest way to attack the deficit. Is it wasting money? Yeah, but like you said, so is the nickel. Um, I don't know. I just, I look at it as like we're sort of making profits off the quarters, and then we're losing some money on the pennies. It's like a loss leader, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah, 85 million a year. I mean, I'd rather save it than not save it.
And like you
The
said, right, we're gonna have more nickels, so, but you're losing more money.
maybe we have more. I don't know that we need more nickels. Do we need more nickels? I don't know.
So this was really interesting. Do you remember this coin shortage from a few years ago, right? Where like every store was like, bring us $5 in coins and we'll give you $6. I did not realize what this was. I did not realize the sort like the importance of basically like of people like actually paying with cash.
Sure,
That's what that
sure.
was. It was just purely sort of a velocity problem that we weren't actually out of coins. It's just people they were paying everything with their credit cards. They were either ordering on an app or they were
Yeah,
ordering
yeah.
they were paying with a credit card, so they weren't bringing coins in, so there was no reason to circulate it. And then when the coins aren't circulating, there's suddenly a shortage of coins. And now that's over. It's not that we have necessarily more coins, but I don't know. That's interesting. So I will say, in terms of, I'll add a money idea on here that I think is
Sure.
sort of goofier. And I would put this in the category of, I'm in favor of eliminating a penny, mostly because I know how many people lose money on Coinstar vending machines, which are to
Yeah, yeah.
me, like the idea that anybody uses those, I think so. Those are, if you've never seen these at your local Walmart or pretty much Walmart, I think is where they're at. You dump all your change into it, it counts all your coins. They take like 11% and then spit out a receipt that you can go turn in to the cashier. I understand their purpose, but the idea that you're taking 11% of my money
That's a
is
big hit.
it's a big hit, especially when, and this is, I wanted to share this information with you when you asked me when was the last time I used a penny. I keep a bag of coins in my car from any cash transactions I have because when I go to the grocery store, Walmart, Target, the self-checkout has a place to drop coins in it. I will just bring my little bag of coins and I will just sit there and feed
One
that
at a
thing.
time.
Well, like I'm going pretty fast, so I'm
Yeah,
dumping
yeah, yeah.
coins in that thing, and right then it knocks off $4.35 worth of
Okay.
stuff. It's Coinstar, but they don't take 11% from me.
So I have used Coinstar a couple times back in the day when they gave gift cards for full
Yes.
price.
I think you can get like an Amazon gift card.
Yeah, which is to me was like
It's
cash, and I was
cash.
like, okay, I'll do that. But I mean, it raises an interesting side question, which was not what our initial intention was. But I am curious, how often are you using cash versus versus tap and pay? The most common way I pay anymore is usually with my phone to
Yeah. No,
Apple Pay.
so all this is, I'll tell you the annoying part. I do know when I have cash. I do, I'm just old enough to be this, and you're probably the exact same way, right? I'm gonna say this is where you and I are on the same sort of age side of
Yeah.
things. I'm just old enough to like always have $20 in my wallet. Like
Yeah,
Matt is
yeah.
nodding along for those of you who are listening.
Yep.
There's a weird sort of, I think, age divide where even though I pay everything with my credit card, I do tap to pay, I pay with mobile apps. I don't know. There was a moment where like, what if your card doesn't work? I think I'm just in that sort of switch, where I've had my card cut up because they thought it was fraud, sort of thing. I use cash to pay for the vending machines on campus, even though they take credit cards. Sometimes they don't, which is super annoying. Sometimes the thing doesn't work, and I really want my Coke Zero, so I have $1 that I put in there.
Yep. Yep.
And then, I keep cash for things like I go to a lot of stadiums and, parking at stadiums often will have cash. I use cash for that. Even now, I mean, they do tap to pay now, but I still sort of mentally bring cash for that. Other
Yeah.
than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tips at a bar, maybe.
When our group goes out for trivia, we usually will, there will be a check and
Mhm.
everybody, will throw in some amount of cash. And these are older people. This isn't, there's a couple in there who could do Venmo, but not everybody is on Venmo. So there's
Yeah.
that. Honestly, the other place where I always like to have cash available for is gambling. And once
Mm.
again, if it's a private place, you could make it be Venmo instead. But
Yeah.
if I go to a local poker game, you know, got to have cash. If I go to the casino, I really got to get the limit lifted on my debit card.
That's what
Oh,
I'm thinking. The last time I
small.
went to Vegas, so actually maybe I went to Vegas last year. So no, I lied. I had cash in Vegas
Yeah, yeah,
because I would have, So I like to when I gamble, I like to start with a slot machine. This sounds so dumb. I like to lose $20 real fast on a slot machine just so I can kind of get in the mindset
yeah,
of
yeah,
losing. And but I'll put it in and I'll walk away with $1.33 at the end of it, and so it'll spit out the change.
yep.
Actually, it won't, right?
It does a receipt
It'll
now.
spit out the dollar, and then it'll spit out a little 33-cent voucher.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
But I cashed in one of those vouchers because I was mad. So,
the 33 cents. So I've
well, I had chips, so I cashed in the chips with the voucher.
yeah, so those are the times I do it, but it is interesting. So I will ask questions. There have been times where you have found something on the internet and you've asked. I'm going to ask you to assess Britannica's pros and cons at a glance.
Okay.
This is, the question they ask is, so should the US penny stay in circulation?
Okay.
Pros and cons at a glance. Pro number one, preserving the penny keeps consumer prices down and avoids harming low-income households.
Keeping prices down, no. It's not. I don't think it's going to change the prices. I will say this, and maybe this is where I'm on the pro side. One of the problems of switching to sort of a cashless society is that a large percentage of this country is unbanked. So we have what 11? I think it's like 10 or 11% are unbanked. Could the penny? Yeah, this is the problem on the margin, right? On the margin, does it make a difference? Probably it does. It has to. Somebody collectively is going to get these pennies and they can't be they can still be spent. I don't know how much harm it would cause, but I would say this pushes us more towards a cashless society, which could harm people who are unbanked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I don't
I
know how
agree
big.
with you. Nothing on the prices. I don't think preserving it keeps prices down. If there's harm, I think it's pretty minimal, but I mean, I can
That's
see
what I'm
your
saying.
argument.
I
Pro
think
number
it's small.
oh, should it stay in calculation? Pro number two, a penny can be used for decades and is more cost efficient to produce than a nickel.
So this was yes. So this was one of our arguments. This is good. We're not crazy then. We made some good arguments. I think it is. I think if we think about this velocity of money, that money kind of moves through the economy multiple times, then a penny is worth it. If it's 4 cents, right? You can sort of almost think about it as if a penny is spent 4 times, then it's worth its cost of it.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
think the problem is exactly the conversation we're having of when was the last time you spent a penny? And I don't know that it circulates through the
Yeah.
economy 4 times.
I'm not convinced it's more cost efficient. Nickels are expensive, but as a ratio, they're not as expensive. And I think the velocity argument,
I think the
I don't,
velocity happens more on a nickel.
I would think it does, and I think it still would, even if it's nickels is the lowest. But well, obviously pennies won't be circulated anymore. So that
Yeah.
pro number three, pennies raise money for charities, like the organizations such as the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the Salvation Army, and the Ronald McDonald House ask people to donate pennies to raise funds.
This is that's the old March of Dimes
Yeah.
campaigns. Right. I mean, if you think about, so I'll tell you a personal story out of this. Right. So you think about like the bell ringers out Salvation Army with their little change buckets. Yeah, I could see that argument. Yeah, somebody who pay if you always pay in cash, if you're a cash person, actually we'll go back to the other story, right? If you're unbanked, you're paying in cash.
Yeah, yeah.
You toss your coins in there. So I've thought about this because I have gotten caught in this where I think I've walked in a place and they're like, "Oh, donate your change." And I was like, "I don't have any cash," and they go, "We take credit cards," and I go, "Damn it!" Like, I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, yeah. I think
I would buy
I
that
don't
argument. I
I
buy
don't
that.
know. You like that one? I'm not as certain
I
I
don't.
like that.
I mean, I don't love it as a justification for keeping it, but I think it's accurate. I
I
think
think
about
it's
this.
accurate only to the extent it would move us to a cashless society. Because if somebody's giving their change, I mean, quite frankly, the 2 pennies don't make a difference. So I think the change. I think if they're going to give their quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies, and now they're just giving their quarters, nickels, and dimes, I
Figured
don't think
there's
that's a
that.
big difference. I do think what you say, if eliminating the penny is one more step towards a cashless society, then maybe. Although, as you say, a lot of them have the hey, well, tap to pay, and
I think about
uh,
this whenever like if I see like if somebody like if a homeless person asks me for money or something, I think
yeah,
about the idea that like I don't generally carry
yeah,
that much cash. And so I always think about sort of 20 years ago, people might give $1, give 50 cents because they had it, versus
okay,
like
yeah,
it's I think it's more of this movement towards a cashless society, right? Is the penny the tipping point? I mean, we've already been moving that way anyway, but right, does a penny move us even closer? I don't think so.
yeah,
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 I don't think a penny is kicking somebody into going, well, I'm not gonna pay with cash anymore because I can't get pennies. So I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
you're either already there or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Now they have 3 cons, and I think two of them we've kind of discussed, but maybe not so much. Maybe only one. Con number one: the penny has practically no value and should be taken out of circulation, just as other coins have been in U.S. history. We haven't really talked about that. I mean,
Thanks to Chris Clark, I know the answer to this. Chris, I watched this like an hour ago, so Chris
yeah, yeah,
stepped out of time. The half penny was discontinued like back in the 1870s. So we used to have a half penny. It's no longer with us.
okay. Um,
No, it's valuable. Right? This is the argument I think you started with, right? It does have value. It's low value. I don't think the answer, it doesn't have zero value. But then I think it goes back. I think your argument is much better. Is the opportunity cost worth the value? And I don't think it is.
yeah,
The
yeah.
opportunity cost outweighs the value.
Um, Con number two that I had not thought of the second one. The process of making pennies is costly, both financially and environmentally. Honestly, I can't even validate the claim whether it's really environmentally bad or not.
I
They have
mean,
a little
technically, right? If
description.
you're not pulling more minerals out of the ground,
You are, as long as it's not being substituted by different minerals, or the penny minerals are more valuable than the nickel minerals. Um,
that's an interesting one. Yeah, this is the problem. I will say this is a great example, I think, of rent seeking is there's like one company that basically provides the metal for the penny,
okay.
and they're like the biggest lobbyist in this space
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. I
to
believe
make
that.
sure that they don't cancel the penny because they're literally like the only ones who process the copper. They're the only ones that like
Sure.
process they're copper. These are what is it? No, a penny's not made of copper anymore. What is a penny made out of? It's
We
like a weird
probably
mix of stuff.
we probably should have started that. I think zinc and
Zinc.
copper.
Copper plated zinc. Yeah. So I think there's like one company that like sort of specializes in the minerals to
Yeah,
produce the penny, and they're the ones that are freaking out the most, of course.
yeah,
So
I would not
we
want to
could
stock them.
listen, hey, cancel the penny, costing American jobs.
That
So
yeah, there we go. That's
if you
this is campaign platforms for the win. And the final one is one we've talked, kind of my main point. Eliminating pennies would save time at the point of purchase.
I think
Hmm.
that's that is a really good argument and one that I had not really considered, and I think honestly is the strongest argument because I think about any time I've gone to Canada, and again, this is the sort of when I went to Canada and paid in cash, that
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
been because my credit card, for whatever reason,
sure.
they didn't
Fine.
take American Express. So I'm the same old man where I'm like, I'm going to Canada. I gotta get some
You gotta get some
currency.
stuff. Yeah.
What if my card doesn't work? Um, yeah, it was confusing at first, and then when I realized what they were doing, I completely understood. So I think the adjust, if I'll say when we stop producing the penny, because it's going to come one day. If this isn't it, it's going to happen. When we stop producing the penny
Yep.
and we start rounding the change, you're going to see a lot of people freak out. And then I think about it a lot like the tap to pay. I remember when tap to pay first started, and you would see people lose their mind where they're like, I just want to insert it. And now pretty much everybody just taps to pay. Like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
A year from now,
It'll
I
be
think
good.
people will be fine with no penny.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Any final thoughts before our pop culture discussion?
I'm trying to think of if I have pop culture about a
I
penny.
can start with one because there's,
Uh,
if
I,
give you a moment to think about it. If
okay.
so, and this is one I saw this musical on the West End, but the title of it's Half a Sixpence.
Oh, okay.
And there's actually a song in there that, where the line is half a sixpence is better than half a penny, which are, you know, not existing anymore. At least when I go to Britain, there is a pence, but there is a song in there called Money to Burn, which I have on Broadway Economics, where all of them talk about what they would do if they had money to burn. And, they all have different preferences, different utility. Kind of interesting, but given the song is mentioning currency, or the musical is mentioning currency in the title, thought that would be an relevant one for discussing the pennies. I actually think there's a song about a penny in, I think there might be a song about a penny. Is it in, I want to say Hello Dolly, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, that's mine.
I was furiously searching the Econ Media Library for anything about pennies. I got nothing.
Yeah,
Uh, and then I was like, okay, nickels, no. Dimes, no. I was like, this is not good.
nothing.
I
There is
do have
another, there is a different musical one from
I've got
Hello
one for a
Dolly.
quarter, which
Okay.
is actually it's funny that this one popped up because I think about this. I just went to the airport not that long ago, and I got to have this conversation with somebody at the airport. So our airport has the baggage carts that you're required to put the quarter in
Oh,
so that
sure.
you'll bring it back. So there's a great clip from the terminal. Did you ever watch that with Tom Hanks?
I don't know. I think I might have, but I do not remember a
It's,
thing about
I,
it.
I think it's really good. A man basically trapped in an airport because he's fleeing a war-torn country. He lands, and then like while he was on the flight, his country goes into a civil war, so his passport's not valid anywhere. So the idea is he's essentially stuck in this airport because he doesn't have a home.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so he's stuck in the airport, and so he's figuring out like how am I gonna live here? And so he basically returns luggage carts that people have left behind so that he can get the 25% return back from it. And I think about this because I was at the Roanoke Airport, I don't know how long ago, and somebody was like yanking on the carts to try to get them out, and I was like, "You've got to give it like $1, and then we'll."
Yeah, get the change
Like,
through.
there's no place to get change. There's no
No,
change machine in the airport, and like it takes a quarter to get your cart. I was like, "Don't, sorry, you just can't use it."
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I will throw out there since I mentioned Hello Dolly, Penny in My Pocket. David Hyde Pierce, who many might remember from Frasier, sang that song on the Tony Awards about 6 years ago. So you could find that one on YouTube even. But a second, so Broadway comes through with the Penny songs. But no, interesting discussion. I hadn't thought about some of these pros or cons. So this was a fun conversation.
Yeah,
And
you got me pro cancellation.
yay.
I'm tipped over. You
Okay.
beat me.
Winning.
Finally, we've waited 3 years for Matt to change my opinion.
Absolutely. This is a day I'm gonna I'd have to go out and have an actual drink when I get home now. So not just the Diet Sam's. But how
I
was how
made
was the beer?
So okay, those of you who are watching, this looks still very full, but I'd like to remind you that I have a big can.
Yeah.
I've had about half of it. It's good. It tastes like maple syrup. So like it's a dark, sort of mapley sweet flavor.
Sure, sure.
I like
Oh,
it.
cool. Well, thanks for taking time for listening to our audience. And of course, appreciate the comments, appreciate any show suggestions or feedback. Jadrian mentioned before we started recording that several people reached out to express their appreciation for the last episode, which is, we love that. So thank you to everybody who has reached out for that. And appreciate everybody for, recommending this to a friend and commenting, likes, all the good stuff. And Jadrian, thanks again for a fun conversation.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink, clink, clink.
Clink, clink, clink.
Clink, clink, clink.